I'm Will Hedrick.
And I'm Jordan Schaffer.
And this is Dog Ears and Timestamps, a book club podcast.
And the end of another era.
So many eras ending this week. It's still the same week for us. It's Friday at the time of this recording. Jordan's going out of town next week, so we're doing this a little bit early.
Yeah. Just for me.
Just for Jordan.
I'm smiling. Sorry, I was smiling loudly and I forgot you guys can't see that. Yeah, I'm going back home, visit Mom, and hang out and clean up the farm and ranch and just do some stuff out there. Hang out with my brother. It's it's like everybody's birthday in May too. My brother is the beginning of May, my uncle's the end of May, my mom's the end of May. And we're all just having like dinner, I think.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but it'll be cool. So
It's a shame you're not a part of the May birthday club. They didn't think to include you.
No.
That's kind of rude.
Being in March, they didn't. I don't think I qualify. It's kind of, what is that, monthist, birthdist?
It's something.
Yeah. I don't like it. I'm going to celebrate my birthday.
Do it.
On Wednesday.
Do it. Go down there.
The day after Mom's birthday. This is my birthday too. It'll be cool though. Mom and everybody's going like on a diet, so they'll be eating good, which will be easy to eat good while I'm there.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
Mm-hmm.
That's true.
And yeah, other than that, it's just going to be a lot of stuff that I've been really wanting to do. Just like going out to the farm and messing around, and I'm going to do some like hunting if I can, just like hogs and stuff. But yeah, I'm excited. It'll be fun, and it's all next week. And but yeah, dude, this. What about you? What are you up to this next week?
Nothing special, I don't think. I've got just work. That's it. Just work. And we just got approved unlimited overtime.
Ooh.
Basically.
Mm-hmm.
And didn't say it in so many words, so I'm probably just going to try and grind out as many hours as I can before they force me to go home.
Before they
at
take
some
it away.
point where they realize what's happening and be like, okay, we said you could have some overtime. We didn't say you could work 90 hours, so go home. We'll find out what happens.
Nice.
Next time. In any case.
What'd you think of the book? You said you finished it yesterday, right? You texted me when you finished it.
Yeah, I was just reading it at work, and it was definitely not what I expected at the, in the end there.
Yeah, at the end of our last episode, I'd say I didn't see this coming, but I'd say part of the way through the reading this time, I kind of saw something like that coming. Like I saw her granting him immunity. I don't know why. I was just like, I bet she's going to give him immunity somehow because she'll be a Scythe and she'll just make him immune before she has to glean him. And then the way she did it was like, that's how you do it. Nice. Because I don't know what made me think that when it was going over it in the book. But it was just like...
Yeah, because we don't even realize that she's going to stop being a fugitive until, like, right before.
Yeah, I think it was when she said... Because she was like... I think she thought, like, I have a plan. And then it didn't
She
tell
does
us
think
the plan.
that, yeah.
When it didn't tell us her plan, I was like, I bet it's something like...
She comes up with a plan the night before.
Yeah,
going to Conclave.
And then Rowan, though, it gave us his plan in full details, like what he would do if he won and what he would do if he lost. And I was like, okay, well, they gave us his fully fledged plan. Hers is going to be the one that works. So I don't know. It wasn't a solid thing in my head. I was like, this could go any which way. I definitely wouldn't have probably pitched it even as an idea, but I was thinking it kind of. And then it happened, and I was like, wow, that was awesome. That was really cool.
Yeah, I feel like while I said I didn't expect a lot of what it is that happened when, with Rowan becoming, like rogue Scythe and he just runs around killing corrupt Scythes and stuff like that.
Yeah, I didn't see that actually.
And, that was totally left field. And the resolution of who becomes a Scythe between Rowan and Citra and how Citra gets out of trouble and how Rowan gets away from Goddard, I think were all written. I had the word whenever I started this thought, and then I immediately lost the word. They were kind of weak. Okay. And it didn't. I don't know if it was either because it was like rushed for some reason.
I felt like the thing with Goddard was rushed, but I didn't see it coming either. I don't know why. Like it was really fast.
It was almost like twists for twists' sake.
Yeah.
And so what's the point of having Citra go through being a fugitive if all that has to happen is she just literally has to get away for a day and Curie has to just go berate Xenocrates for it, and then she gets absolved, and then she
so
gets to go see.
It was because she could talk, so she could talk to the Thunderhead and learn the identity of
who Faraday is. Yeah, but that could have been done much more elegantly.
I agree.
Elegant was the word I was looking for. Nothing about those 3 things was elegant in any way.
I see what you're saying.
They were really rough and just kind of almost forced in. I felt like
it happened really fast.
Because the whole going down to chill Argentina and then going to Amazonia and finding Faraday there was really interesting up until the point that we then just cut to her coming back to Mid-America for Conclave, and everything's okay.
Yeah.
Curie figured it out without us even seeing Curie do it. It's just literally, from Rowan's perspective, he said that he had heard everything that happened and heard that Curie went and absolved her of, the bogus charges. It's okay, cool. So how did it happen? Everything else has been really deliberate in a way.
Especially and then when it comes to the Scythes doing stuff, it's very deliberate and calculated. Even Goddard was calculated with everything he seemed to do.
Not even just calculated, but we at least got to see it.
Yeah, no, for sure. The writing was calculated. I feel like...
Yeah.
I see what you're saying.
And it's just completely super weird. And then, everything happening to Goddard and his retinue at the, the Tonist, whatever you call it, was, I feel like Volta dying made sense.
Right.
And that happened at a reasonable pace.
And
then, that sort of sets Rowan off. He goes to find Goddard, and Goddard, goads him into killing him. More, not, purposely, but he's like, okay, now you're going to glean this person. This is going to be your first gleaning before we go to Conclave, where you will definitely win and become a Scythe and then glean Citra. And Rowan, just can't take it because Volta had died, and he thought that maybe the 2 of them, once he became a Scythe, they'd be able to get away from Goddard and blah, blah, blah. And then, so he kills Goddard, and in the moment, I was like, okay, that's kind of cool. And I guess he can then set Goddard on fire or something, or Goddard's just going to come back anyways, and so now Rowan's on the one that's on the run, and so Citra wins. And I thought that would be an interesting role reversal from what I was expecting, because I thought Citra was going to be on the outside and Rowan on the inside. And I was like, okay, well, that's it. That's the twist, is that now those roles get reversed.
Yeah.
No. Not really. He then kills, Chomsky and Rand, without much effort, and then burns everything down and gets away with it. But then,
and him getting away with it even was kind of I guess it was kind of cool that he knew, the insider, he knew that, the affiliation with the guy and that little girl, so he was like, I know your secret. So,
and then even in that moment, even though he's able to sort of use Esme as hey, I'll let all this go if you let it all go. Okay, cool. That, that makes sense, structurally wise. But even because that interaction is from Xenocrates' point of view, and in that interaction, even then Xenocrates is like, man, don't care that Goddard's gone. And Rowan obviously, I think, did it, and he's really smart. And I think that he could be guided in a positive direction, and we could really use somebody with those abilities in the Scythedom. So I don't think he was going to do anything ever anyways, from that point of view, you know, at least that we're given.
Yeah.
So that was kind of weird. But then, so Rowan, gets away with it, but then fails against Citra in the last trial, which we're not given any explanation for why.
It almost seems like there was some, calculation done with, oh, okay, well, because of, it seems like Rowan, since he's the better fighter, he would have thrown the fight harder. So, I don't know. It seemed like they looked at the old conclaves, and they were like, based on these 2 old conclaves, and then how he was so uncalculated in his fulfillment of, the duties at this conclave, the current winter conclave, because he killed his mom so, thoughtlessly and heartlessly or whatever. He killed her before he even got the instructions. I think that played a part in it. It didn't make sense because they didn't explain it.
Yeah, the only explanation we get for the judgment on how that goes is when Citra goes through it, and there's, 4 people on the Bajolian committee. 2 of them seem to be more compassionate. 2 of them seem to be more about efficiency, because the one says Citra took too long, there was no point in talking to her brother, or why did she even hand him the knife and all this sort of stuff. We're about efficiency. And then Scythe Mandela and whoever the other one that gets named was no, she showed compassion, blah blah. So there's obviously they're supposed to represent two sides of the same coin, I guess, or whatever.
Makes sense, yeah.
And so Rowan's on the other side of the
he's
two
not on
points
either.
side coin.
It seems like he's not even efficient because he did it before he got information. Like that's not efficient.
Well, he had all the information he needed. That's super.
No, he assumed a lot of stuff. He didn't know he was supposed to kill that girl. Like he didn't know he was supposed to kill his mom as part of the test. It could have been part of the test to torture.
Well, we don't know that because we weren't in his head.
I know,
and I
but
think that it's pretty obvious when you've got somebody
it makes sense,
who's.
But even Rowan, or even Citra asked, like, "Wait, I have to kill him."
Citra asked because that's in her nature.
No, I know. I'm just saying, like, because he did it so quick, it almost killed efficiency because he's just a mindless machine. You know, like in my mind,
a mindless machine is the definition of efficiency.
Not really, though. In certain
Absolutely.
things, like, didn't you watch that movie with the pilots and oh shoot, it had Jessica Biel in it, and
no, I don't think so.
Yeah, it was about these AI planes, and that they were trying to train them to make decisions. But then there were like these top 3 pilots. There was like the black one, white one, and the girl. So it had like every demo, and they had those 3 pilots, and they were like basically trying to train the AI to make human decisions. But basically, the humans always ended up making like. Not always, but they ended up making decisions based on like their gut and their instinct that a robot couldn't make. So,
well, that's not an argument against or for efficiency.
No,
that's a different argument altogether.
But if the robot's doing stuff, like if a robot killed somebody before you gave it the sign to kill, like if you were a killing robot and then I put you in the room with your mom and then you kill your mom before I tell you to kill your mom, that's not efficient. That's like, well, my robot's doing shit I don't want it to do.
There's a difference between efficiency and success.
And I don't think it did either. I don't think that was efficient or successful. Like, doing the job before being told, like, I guess saying that doing the job before being told, that is efficient. But doing the job on the assumption that you know what you're doing, like, that you're doing is right, even though you haven't gotten any information to know that what you're doing is correct.
But that's the only thing that it could be. If I was on the Bajillion committee,
it's not the only thing it could be. It makes sense for this. It makes sense for this, but in his mind, there's no way we could have known that he thought it's the only. Like, there's no way we would have known it's the only thing it could be.
It absolutely is.
I mean, they could have forced him to torture him for 20 days.
Scythes
They could have
don't do that.
I mean,
That's
we didn't
not
know
within...
We didn't know what it was. We had no idea what this final test was. That's all I'm saying.
I think the second you walk into the room and you see somebody tied to a chair with a bag over their head, and the selection committee gives you a piece of paper that says a weapon that you have to pick up, what else do you then do at that point? There is no other thing.
I know, but if he didn't even get the instructions. They said that he killed him
before they could finish the instructions.
Before they could give him the instructions.
So he got far enough that he was given the piece of paper with the name of the weapon that he had to use.
Still, I would disagree that that's efficient. Because at the end, he could say, shoot around your mom, threaten your mom, like make your mom almost die. I don't know. It could have just,
none of those, all these alternatives that you're suggesting are not things that Scythes do.
And it's not what happened. I'm just saying, I don't think it's efficient to do it beforehand. I think that he showed, I don't know, I think that showed everything like against what I would want in a Scythe. Like I would have picked Citra too.
That's certainly what the 2 that picked Citra would have not wanted.
I think all 4 would have picked Citra over him because I would disagree. I don't think that's efficient.
Well, they obviously came to a majority vote over Citra over Rowan. But we don't know what that conversation about Rowan was.
I see what you're saying.
And I think the other 2 are, given what they said against Citra, would have likely been for Rowan.
No, I see what I can agree with that, but yeah, but I mean, I would still say that out of the 2, like she showed the best.
But that's not what we're talking about. We're trying to figure out what it was that would have made Rowan less of a candidate, and that wasn't given to us.
Yeah. So we were just speculating.
Yeah.
So what were you saying?
What I was saying was based off of what they talk about when they're talking with Citra, it seemed like 2 people were for her, 2 people were against her. They had already seen Rowan before seeing Citra. She went last, and so if it was trying to give us any sort of clue about what they thought about Rowan, then 2 were probably for Rowan and 2 were against Rowan. So it's a 50-50 split in the initial conversation on both of them. So then why do they pick Citra? Aside from it, being probably the better choice in our opinion, but we're not on the Bajillion Committee. We also don't live in this universe where this mode of thinking exists.
No, yeah.
So, what the hell does our opinion matter? But but it just doesn't make not that it doesn't make sense, but it just the narrative in this at this point was lacking because there's no, we've got these two characters that we've been following for this entire book. We've seen their capability in different respects. They've talked to each other about their difference in capability and, everything. We see them both wanting to go for a certain goal and, with varying results. And then whenever the decision that seemed to be the catalyst of everything that happened from the point that,
plot point, a huge point.
Whenever this moment finally comes, there's no explanation as to why it went the way that it did.
And, that was disappointing just to get it handed to us. Like, I remember re-listening to it thinking like, okay, maybe I just missed it. And then it was like, nope. Citra's just awarded it.
It's just really weird. You would think that, and I get that because in the other, graduation ceremony that happened in the previous conclave that we were at, they didn't tell the size, the prospective size, why yes or no at the time either. But in a book where we're jumping between a couple of different perspectives, and we also didn't go through the testing phase of those perspective size. We went through the testing phase of half of our characters in this batch of perspective size. I feel like there could have been more dialogue between Citra and the judges, and any dialogue at all between Rowan and the judges.
Yeah, they didn't really give us much, and I think that giving us so much for the other two, like the summer and it was summer probably right before this one, because this was whatever conclave this was.
It was.
I can't even remember.
Well, this was the winter conclave, but they had. I guess it was probably summer, but they might have called it something different because they call everything different. The fall conclave was harvest conclave. Yeah. So yes,
but in both of those, they had him like fight to the death, right? Like
no, in the first one they just answered questions for Curie.
Okay.
The second one they fought, and it wasn't supposed to be a fight to the death. It was just supposed to be a fight.
It was just supposed to be a fight, yeah. And then he. So what made them pick nobody in the first one? Did they both just fail?
They both failed on purpose.
That's what it was.
Rowan did it Citra failed because she lied to Curie, and Rowan failed because he didn't want to look like he was better than Citra at that time. So and that's what tips off Goddard's people that they're working together, and so why not make them against each other?
Yeah.
But in any case, there's like
this last one. You're right. It didn't give us anything for like any sort of closure on like why they actually picked Citra over Rowan.
Yeah.
Because on paper, Rowan's better at it.
Yeah.
But then the other one has...
He's better at the physical aspects of it.
And then the other one has the emotional stuff, too.
And we know Rowan to have compassion, and we never seen him do it in any of his killings, because all of the times that he killed somebody were when he just rendered the training targets dead-ish, you know? And we don't even really see that. We just, get, the post-narrative of him thinking about, how... he was just trying to be as quick at that as possible, blah, 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 but he hated it and, such and such. So we know him to be a good person or whatever.
Did you have faith in him the whole time? You didn't?
Yeah, absolutely.
Me too.
No.
I never thought he was corrupt. And I know it's easy because we get his perspective a lot of times. But it did, every now and then it did make it seem like he understood the temptation at least. Whether or not he was corrupted by it, he understood it and he saw it.
He saw that it was there and he was afraid of it.
Yeah, because he definitely saw himself get, because... I think going back to the test where he has to shoot his mom, or not shoot his mom, or he has to kill his mom, and the choice was the gun. I think even there he was just I was surprised as to how fast how ready I was to do it. I was just okay, this is what I got to do, kill my mom. Boom.
Right. Yeah.
And because Citra was just she wasn't ready. She had to deal with it emotionally and figure out if it was.
But she's also always like that.
If it was a true gleaning or not, and he was just I don't care if it's a gleaning on my brother or not. And then I'm sure he realized later what he had done. But I feel like he turned on the robot.
Well, he would have known because Rowan as a character has always been way quicker to the chase than Citra has been. He always knows what it is that's going on before Citra does, and then acts on it, and also is usually a little bit more reserved and silent, where Citra is always like screaming and asking questions or whatever, like whenever she asks Curie about, whenever she meets Faraday the first time, and then whenever she goes on the first gleaning trip with Curie, and then she's like, you didn't warn him or anything, and Curie has to like put her in her place. And so she's always doing that sort of stuff. She's always like, you can't expect me to kill my brother, blah, blah, blah. It can't be a real gleaning, can it? But Rowan would have been like, it can't be a real gleaning because I'm not a scythe. I can't glean.
Yeah.
So they're, I'm just going to be rendering this person deadish and, done, whatever. So, yeah. What, dude? What's up? What? No, buddy, you can't come up here. Go somewhere else. So it was just, I guess back to, the point of that is that, like, those three things that happened were just so inelegant.
For the rest of the book being so fledged out too, because even the other conclaves are more fledged out.
I felt like we had been led to expect more.
And then it was all resolved kind of quickly too, even with Citra, like, I mean, the big twist is her punching him, like, well, here's for breaking my neck, and she very theatrical again, which fits her character, so it might not even made sense if Rowan tried to do something like this, but why I oughta, and she punches him real hard, and even if in real life I don't think you would get blood immediately on your ring. I think you'd probably get like skin, and then they'd swell up and then start to bleed. But even then, you'd get their DNA.
Yeah, exactly.
I would think.
Yeah,
and then, so that was cool. I liked that. It was very, Hunger Games ending. In Hunger Games, it was like if, I don't think we're gonna read that one, but if.
They conspired to commit suicide, thus not giving them a winner.
Exactly, which pissed them off more. So
and they're like, no, you both win. Blah, blah.
So that was kind of the cool... Because I was wondering how they're going to make that sort of happen, too, in this one, because I wanted them both to be winners, and then I didn't see how exactly, but then,
I didn't think Citra was going to come back. I thought she was going to remain a fugitive.
Yeah.
And that was... such a weird red herring. I guess the only purpose was to introduce that Faraday is still alive, but and so Faraday can continue to be a resource in the upcoming uprising. And was her answer about Anastasia being her name of choice or whatever, her namesake, was that good enough to make everybody just forgive her for being gone for 3 months or whatever? Like, oh, we don't mind that you were truant from our society, but. Well, I think that they all understand what happened. Was that, she had a false education, and so she had to. She was like, "Well, I had to get out of here, otherwise y'all fuckers are going to kill me. I got to get out of here while my name gets cleared." But I don't think I think the Anastasia, reveal is for the purpose of her, putting out her mission. Certainly to Xenocrates, because she never breaks eye contact with him while she says so.
It was pretty cool too that she was like part of a corrupt society.
Yeah, right.
And she didn't say she was part of the corrupt society, but she said she was going to do stuff like that girl was going to.
Right,
it's like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Like I liked how she did her little speech, because that was eloquent or elegantly done, whichever one.
It was that was definitely. A highlight of this last section of the book, I thought. Yeah, that was nice.
Honestly, I think you wrote it in a way too that if we didn't know it was a series, I probably would be okay. I wouldn't.
This would be an acceptable ending,
but I wouldn't want it to end. But I would be like, okay, well, I would accept it, or I'd be like, well, I could see him writing another. Hopefully, it gains traction. Same thing with Legion of the Crane. No, Descendants of the Crane.
Oh, yeah. Well, I think the Descendant of the Crane is a little bit more transparently going to have a sequel.
I think if we didn't know this one was going to have already had a sequel, I think I would say the same. I'd say I think this one for sure is going to have a sequel, but it could end. It could be.
I think the knots are tied more neatly in this than in Descendant of the Crane. Okay, I guess is what I mean. Yeah. If they were both novels that come out today and we read them both today and there was no news about sequels, between the two, I would say Descendant of the Crane definitely gets a sequel. Scythe gets a sequel if it's successful, but if it's not, it's tied up neatly enough that it can be moved on from. Whereas Descendant of the Crane is so obvious that there's almost nothing there's probably nothing that gets tied up actually in Descendant of the Crane. I don't think anything got tied up, which is fine and probably better for the purpose of moving into a sequel, because I feel like having a sequel is something that you should purposefully do,
right?
Not hedge your bets, because if you
Hedge your bets.
if you start hedging your
That's such a good
bets,
way
and
to
maybe
say it.
that's part of what happened, was maybe he hedged his bets a little bit here, and that's why some of those things were a little bit rushed. Maybe, I don't, who
Right.
knows at this point. I'm glad that there are sequels, because I do enjoy Citra's character on the whole.
Yeah, I liked Citra's character, and I liked being inside of Rowan. Like I didn't know if I feel like Rowan was just really relatable, and Citra's character was really likable. Maybe that's what it was. Because Rowan was like, if I was in his shoes, I'd probably be doing the same thing. Just keeping my head low, sticking to what I know, and then the manipulation of the game, of Goddard and everything, like that probably would have gotten to me too, like it did to him, and then he ended up revolting. But like,
Right.
Citra, I don't know if she's necessarily as relatable, but she's very likable. She's super cool and likable as a character, but I don't know if I necessarily relate to her as much. Like, she asks all the right questions and all the things that I'm curious about, so that's maybe why she's so likable. But I don't know if in this world I'd even have the courage to ask the Scythe that thing. Like, I'd probably be just like Rowan, and I'd keep my head down and make a lot of assumptions on things,
Yeah. He definitely keeps all his questions internal. And at least during the time that they're together still with Faraday, he does ask questions, but he does it in a much more subtle way than Citra does. Where Citra's like, why do we do it this way? Rowan, like, fishes the answer out.
Yeah.
So I think that, not that, like, I'm any real artist at conversation, but I relate more to Rowan as a general character as well, where I'm not nearly as outbursty as Citra, I guess is the main difference between the two of them mentally. Is that Citra is just way more outspoken, and I'm not particularly that way outside of like this sort of setting.
Yeah, I like these guys, and I like that we didn't have to lose any one of them to like continue on with the story, which is I guess a nicer wrap up for like a fairy tale ending, whereas in a few of the other stories that we've read, we lost a lot of the guys. Gentlemen Bastards, Descent of the Crane, we lose a lot of our family that we kind of grew up with. But
even in those, the characters that we lost were relatively inconsequential.
It didn't really hurt too much,
Well, it didn't hurt the narrative.
The narrative, yes.
It didn't drastically change the way that the narrative could go.
Yeah, whereas this one...
If we lost one of the characters whose heads we'd been in, that would drastically change the direction of the narrative.
Yeah.
Which is neither good nor bad, just is.
Whereas
in Gentlemen Bastards, like losing Callow and Galdo and Bug was sad because we liked those characters. It wouldn't have affected the narrative beyond just having other characters that are in the same thing that's happening.
For sure.
And we weren't ever inside their brains. We're only ever in John's and Locke's.
Yeah. And it was honestly, even when we got Faraday back, I was like, oh, like we didn't lose anybody.
Yeah, and that's
I don't know why that disappointed me.
That squelched an entire subplot. Just
where it was
very
like,
strangely. Yeah. Like, no, he faked his own death. It's like, okay, I mean, that's kind of neat in a way, but...
I barely get why he faked his own death. It was like just so that he didn't have to be a part of it anymore. No, he faked his own death so that Citra and Rowan could not.
And then it also makes it very weird that Citra gets framed for his murder.
Right.
Because aside from Citra having told Rowan and Curie that she thinks that and is doing like her own private investigation into it, there was no murder. We now know there was no murder at all. So there's nobody else trying to cover it up and therefore needing a patsy.
Yeah.
And so why does Xenocrates suddenly think, oh,
let's write it off.
Let's find somebody to blame as a murder. And when he, for all he knows, is just, he was self-cleaned.
Unless Xenocrates was trying to help Goddard.
Yeah, I think that we can sort of be led to that. I think that's what they were trying to lead us towards thinking, but it doesn't add up to me anymore. With Faraday being alive, it doesn't add up.
Yeah, and
because I don't think that, and certainly with Goddard being killed off, we can see that there was never, or not never, I shouldn't say, but certainly by the time this book was finished, there was not any intention for him to have any real great purpose. And so he's not this master of design that we might have been led to believe initially. So whenever he gets upset that Citra is looking into the supposed murder of Faraday, even though Goddard obviously didn't do it because Faraday is alive. And Faraday yells at Rowan, "Oh, I bet she thinks that it was me who did it, right? Blah, blah, blah." I think that now all that we know about Goddard is that he was just in a rage in that moment and then let it go, and not let it go, but forgot about it and moved on to whatever next manic thing he was doing. Because he's just a person who suffers from mania, is all he is. So I don't think that it makes any sense for him to have put a bug in Xenocrates' ear about investigate Citra or anything, because I don't think he cared after 5 minutes.
I know, and even like the little bit of string that they tried to draw to it with like the old journal entries from
whenever Curie, Faraday had Curie as an apprentice. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then how Curie was into Faraday and she wrote in her diary or whatever about how she liked him and stuff. And then they used those like, look, it was Citra was refused by Faraday, so she like murdered him. I was like, damn, like I guess that's a bit of a stretch though. Like,
right. Well, it was definitely fabricated. If or at least I don't mean to say definitely fabricated, but that's what I thought initially whenever they show Citra those papers.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, well, these are made up. Because it would be really weird for Citra to have been found at Faraday's door and Faraday be scared and us not have seen that. Because then that's just making up plot points for the convenience of plot, you know?
Yeah.
Especially when we had seen Citra get caught looking at Faraday's ring whenever she had come to bring to bring him the milk.
Even a little bit.
Yeah. And that wasn't her being caught outside his door. She went in to deliver the milk, like her role that she had to do every night or whatever.
Yeah.
And so, like, whenever they show her those journal entries, I was like, well, those are fabricated. Yeah. And then for Curie to come in and say, well, that was from whenever I was his apprentice and I was into him. I was like, okay, I guess I sort of get that and like that.
But how did Goddard know?
I don't think Goddard knew. I don't think Goddard had anything to do with the investigation.
Through the investigation that they found.
Yeah. So why did assuming that Goddard didn't instigate the investigation,
to instigate that. Oh,
yeah. I don't think that he instigated it.
Grabbed enough. Maybe I wonder. If
so
that's
what
a
instigated it?
Yeah. I wonder if that has any.
Were they just searching his house because now that he was gone, all his belongings, I guess, default to the Scythedom. So they have to go, tie up loose ends, go pick up all his shit and get the building ready for a regular civilian to move into, buy it from the market or whatever. So maybe that's when they then come across his journal. But the journal was public anyways, because all Scythe's journals are public, and that would have been written at an early date. Earlier to when Citra was even alive, probably. Yeah. So they could see it was dated prior to.
Yeah, and unless it was like a super private diary, doesn't Rowan have a diary? No, it's just his mental diary where he's thinking like.
No, they have written diaries. Citra and Rowan do manual diaries.
Okay, but they don't.
But they don't get loaded up because they're not Scythes, right. So they're not part of the public domain. That's like their last, but their mentors get to look at them. So they have written diaries. I guess it could be assumed that Faraday might also have a written diary, but that entry seems to be like the public Scythe diary.
Oh, see, I was thinking it was a private diary of Curie when she was in her apprenticeship. So it would have been something that only like Faraday would have been privy to.
No, it was something that Faraday was writing. That was Faraday's journal entry.
I was thinking it was
and
her.
And she does say that whenever Curie then starts explaining everything, she does say that he tears out those pages from his journal.
Yeah, he does.
So I guess he does have a manual journal as well, that maybe that is also his Scythe journal that he just uploads on his, he then transposes it digitally and uploads it, or however technology works in this universe, we really don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe it's some sort of like cyber journal.
Cyber journal.
where you can write in it and it instantly uploads it or some shit. I don't know. So the pages were physically torn out and then he seemed to hold on to them. So I guess if they were then searching the house, they could have just found these loose pages in whatever hidey hole he had them in.
Yeah, because he kept.
So it kind of makes a little bit more sense, but those pages would still be like old and weathered. It just seems sloppy that this investigation ever happened.
No, that's the most hard to believe thing. Like the fact that they found the evidence, I guess, was
certainly for it to end up being a red herring.
Yeah,
because her temporary exile ends up meaning absolutely nothing, and so it's just so weird. There's a lot of weird decisions that I have trouble reconciling with the rest of the book.
I wonder if that's maybe just his style.
To just be weird and mildly sloppy.
Mildly sloppy. A mildly sloppy author.
Right.
Oh, man.
I still definitely enjoyed it all.
Oh, for sure.
It just was, some of these left turns were greater than 90-degree turns.
Yeah.
And sort of out of nowhere with no, like build up in any way. And I feel like you can do that once in a while and that can be done interestingly, but there were like 3 that happened here and very close to each other and all at once to end a book.
Yeah. Well, and I think you said it too earlier, like for everything else to be so fledged out and then for these last few things to just
like
rush.
Boom, boom, boom.
Exactly. It's just, I hate to say sloppy because it's not like I'm an artist doing anything.
If it had
like that,
ended up with them like going to war, I would have been like, okay, it has to happen quickly because obviously these are very, extreme situations that result in a very extreme thing, but nothing like that happened. Like everything is just hunky-dory at this point. Yeah, it's just really strange. Yeah,
I guess it kind of leaves you on the cliffhanger of like, there's the Scythe of Scythes,
right,
and then who he's using Goddard's ring, I guess, to, I guess you don't need a ring to scythe anybody, but like, or to
because he doesn't have to follow the rules. Because the only reason they have the ring is to grant immunity, and so that they can, effectively grant immunity to the family members of the people that they glean. But he doesn't give a shit about that. He doesn't have to follow those rules.
How do they know that they're gleaned by a scythe? You know what I mean? Is that... Say he's not a scythe, so how come the scythes stay dead? Does he
burns them afterwards, just like he did.
Yeah, he burns them. Okay, I was going to say, does he kill them all in ways that make them look like they're suicides? No, burning them. Because I forgot that that's the true death.
Right, that's one of the very few things that can make it impossible for them to reach.
And they didn't tell us any other ways. Like, it's probably
that's the only one that they said.
Burn-related, like incineration with electricity or like...
You have to imagine that
blowing up.
A certain amount of decay renders it impossible to bring you back as well.
I would like to believe that. I would not like to think that they're just a bunch of zombies.
Right, yeah. So, yeah, because there's the one point that they say... There's a few ways that you can truly die outside of gleaning. Fire is one of them, and we're only going to talk about fire. Assumedly Rowan then burns all the sides that he deems are not worthy. Yeah, no, that and he's going by Lucifer as his chosen his. Well, that's what they just started calling him. That's what they started calling him. Yeah, well, he's accepted that. Probably. He's probably like, yeah, that seems cool. I'll do the second they said Lucifer, I was like, ooh. I just thought of like Dexter and like the Dark Passenger, how there was like a separate comic. Like there was like a little side scene. You saw Dexter, right? Or no? The show, the serial killer show? Yeah. I watched some of the first season and I just could not give a shit. Oh, okay. In one of the later seasons, there's he like calls it his dark. He might call it in the first season his Dark Passenger, but he ends up like making a little like almost like a comic in his head about it, and it's just like a little thing that's like not even really anything. But in my head, it was just like a cloaked figure that kills the murderers. Okay, just aside the sides. Yeah, that was kind of cool. So it ended with him being the Scythe of Sides, and then her just going on to her job, and then we assume that he's with Faraday. I guess. I don't know. Is Faraday off still in he's still just hanging out in Amazonia. Oh, Amazon. The Amazonia. Maybe. I don't know. Because it's Faraday who shows up to drive Rowan away. Mm-hmm. So does then Faraday, once he's got Rowan to a safe spot, he's like, okay, I'm going back to retirement later. And Curie's good too, right? She's just chilling. Yeah. Well, Citra's going to apprentice under her. Oh, yeah. Or not apprentice, but junior. I forgot that because she still has to go through her junior scythehood, which is however long that is. Yeah, I forgot all about that. I don't know if we learned much at all about junior scythedom. We don't. Yeah, I think all that gets told is that like their gleanings are selected by the gleaning selection committee. They don't get to just like choose that yet. And then when they also need to still continue, because 1 year's worth of training under a scythe to then just make it into the club is probably not enough to become proficient at that job and to be found to have good judgment in your decisions. So 1 year super athlete child
of training was able to assassinate these people that have been doing it for.
Well, we assume that you can. I know, yeah, that was
years.
a little interesting. That all these Scythes that are presumably very accomplished.
You'd think there'd be one that's like master of arms that would be like,
and Rowan's able to just tear through them right quick. Yeah. So I guess we're sort of, and I feel like they sort of build him up to be, even during his training, that he's a bit. Not a prodigy necessarily, but he's very adept at doing the physical side of it all. Even whenever he then, he kills Goddard and then turns on Rand and Chomsky, even like in his inner dialogue, he's like, they stand no chance against me. Not with what I've been able to accomplish. And it's not like, okay, so, so I guess he's God or something. He's like,
he's the best.
Suddenly he's the best fighter ever.
Yeah.
Which, cool, fine. It just seems a little strange. Usually, whenever you're following a character, obviously the character that you're following is the hero of whatever story, because why would you follow a nobody? That's not an interesting story, usually. So, of course, he's going to become, a little more adept than the person next to him, because it's not the person next to him's story. But it just kind of still was like, okay, cool, whatever.
It was something I was ready to let be without even really...
Right.
like thinking about it too hard. Just like, okay, Rowan's the best. I'm cool with that. I need somebody to be the best, and why not him?
Yeah.
You think you're gonna read the other ones soon? I mean, not necessarily.
Not soon.
Right
I will at some point. I want to make my way, at least get caught up to where the Gentleman Bastards are.
Yeah, I like that
because there's 4 books out of that, not counting the prequel, which I may or may not care to read. I think that prequels are overplayed. Yeah,
they probably did that to give us... No, honestly, we did. We met everybody in book 1 that...
Yeah, I don't know what it would be that we... I mean, I guess we could probably... Maybe. Assumingly we meet more characters, and some of which might be older, and it might be worth following them to some degree. Maybe it's just a little bit about chains or something. Who knows? But I want to get caught up to that, and if the 5th book comes out in the time that it takes me to get caught up to that, then I'll read that as well.
That would be cool. Hopefully the 5th is coming out soon. I need to get on those too, and it'd be fun to have like a recap if we read the last one.
Right.
Just talk about the series.
And then if I get caught up on that, then I'll try to finish up Scythe, because that's a 3-book series, is what we looked up earlier, and the 3rd book comes out in November. Ooh. So it can be finished. It's just not until November, which it might take me that long to read 3 other books for Gentleman Bastards anyway. So
especially if they're not on the main chopping block, the main list.
Right.
For reading.
Yeah.
What were you? You're reading some. This was the book you're reading on the side, right? The
Red Seas Under Red Skies.
Red Seas Under Red Skies. And how do you like it?
I like it a lot so far.
Are you halfway?
I'm about 30% through.
Nice.
So I'm enjoying it. There's some interesting things that are happening.
Nice.
So
cool. Yeah, I just I haven't been reading too much. I started in 1984 again though, and that's pretty good, honestly. Like
it is a really good book. It's really old.
It is really old, and I thought I wasn't gonna like it as I started to reread it, and it feels like such an old man or like an English teacher's suggestion, like read this book. But like, it's been kind of fun to reread that one at least. And as it's been 10 years since I've read that book. I read it in high school in my senior year. So 10
How far are you in it right now? Because I feel like it would.
Far.
Yeah, I feel like it would be. The first couple of sit downs that you do to read would be exciting, because you're getting reintroduced to this world, and then once you're reintroduced and you fall back into it because it's something you have read before. Because even on the first time that I read it, there was a lot of times that I was like, I just need to get through this book. Like it's interesting and a very important book for various reasons, but it's not 100% enjoyable.
No, I see what you're saying, and I think for me, since I don't have to do like a report on it, I don't have to do any assignments on it. There's no pressure. Mm-hmm. There's no pressure even here to remember the story to talk about it.
Right,
there's no pressure, so I'm like just listening. I'm listening at work, and it's just giving me all the hot points that I want. And honestly, like this could be one of those ones that like I'll get halfway through and then I'll stop and just been like, oh, well, I got caught up with podcasts or whatever. But as of right now, I'm a couple hours in, and it's been fun to reread, and it's always kind of fun when you have the like assumptions on like what the future will be like, and the words that they use are so silly, like the like little like the telly screens or whatever that they have everywhere.
Yeah. Just use strange words for
The top comment on the video is like, I'm listening to this on my pocket telly screen. I was like, oh, that's pretty silly. And but yes, that's a fun one. And honestly, like I'd like to. It's just been fun reading again, man. Like, and I think there were a few books that we were looking at for when we were thinking about our next book that they all ended up being series for the like young adult fiction section that I was kind of getting into.
I feel like that's the way that the vast majority of books are written these days, is with the intent of having a series.
Yeah.
Because you've got to be able to make money, certainly as like an aspiring author who doesn't have all the traction of a King or something like that.
I was literally thinking...
You need to be able, if you want it to become like your job and that be the only thing you do and you don't have to work as a barista on the side, you have to be able to sell a long product to the publishing company and be like, look, I can give you a 6-book series that people are going to want to read because everybody loves series.
Yeah.
So that's like the goal that everybody has.
If I have one bad one and a series of five good ones, you know, like what's the harm? We still made money, you know. I'm just kidding. I don't think authors think like that.
Yeah.
If I wrote a bad one.
But there are so many series out there, and now we've read 2 in a row.
And one that we think will be a series, but it's so new that there's no telling.
Yeah, that's right. Now 3 in a row, really. Gentleman Bastards, and then Descendant of the Crane, which we weren't expecting to be a series, but is seemingly going to turn out to be a series. But at least we're caught up with it.
Yeah, we're right on.
We're immediately caught up with it.
And then this one now, that's another series. Yeah. But honestly, for whatever reason, I feel like this series I could just fly through in like a week or 2.
It seems a lot quicker than Gentleman Bastards, like you were saying before we started recording. I think it probably is going to be a little bit quicker than Descendant of the Crane 2. Although I loved reading that book literally every single time I was reading it. So maybe I could carry through that series a little bit faster just because I enjoyed it so much. Yeah. But this book, Scythe, flowed a lot easier than those 2.
I thought so.
Or at least more, it flowed a little bit more naturally.
It didn't feel like
it might just be because it was overly simple.
That's what it was. It was so simple that I didn't feel like there was really much of a break between each time I listened. It felt just like, I don't need to really listen to anything to pick back up where I left off. I think you're right. I think
at the very least, for this introduction to this 3-book series, you know, this obviously sets up what is going to happen. I think that's more or less what we were predicting even from the beginning, was that it ends in them becoming Scythes, or one of them becoming a Scythe, you know, once the problem came into play. And then the rest of the series, the last 2, or however many, now we know it's a 3-book series. At the time we might not have. But and then the other 2 are going to be the fight against the corruption of the Scythedom. So it's just an introduction book, but nothing complicated happened in this book. No, nothing at all. There was the semblance of something about to happen that was complicated, and then that immediately got tossed to the side. And then we're done. So, yes, it would be a lot easier to read this series if it continues to be this way.
And honestly, I don't see why it wouldn't. I mean, it seems hard to throw a lot into it. So, I mean, what do I know? They could literally make it complex in the next book and just throw it all.
It seems like it's just going to be like... It's kind of like what I envision as a young adult book. Yeah. Like this and Hunger Games is another really good example of what is going to be a
hot trilogy.
Yeah. It's just like, you know, kind of high octane, pretty simple storyline, you know, as far as the overarching plot, relatively predictable.
Yeah, relatable or likable characters, you know, whether you liked or related to one or the other.
Yeah.
I feel like you could flip and then relate or like the other one, you know?
Right. Like it's not asking you to think a whole lot.
No, it's just
the only thing that we've thought about is just what it would be like to live in that universe.
Oh, because it scratches that immortality itch that we've all rattled around.
Right, and there's a committee of death. You know?
That's like that's so wild.
And the only government is a perfect AI. Like those are such alien ideas that, of course, we're going to think about what that is, but that's not what the book is asking you to do.
Did you like the Thunderhead when we met it for the moment?
Immediately after my prediction? Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Whenever because the chapter opens up with, thought bubbles or whatever, because, Citra's still unconscious and she's talking to the Thunderhead through that consciousness or semi-consciousness.
Yeah, he brings her to consciousness, or sorry, not he.
He opens a single
AI
portion of her
up
consciousness so that he can talk to her, it can talk to her.
Yeah.
The Thunderhead's does not have a gender. It's
I
like
assume
AI.
not. Yeah, that would be so weird. I identify.
Whenever it opens up with those thought bubbles, I was like, "Oh God, we were right." It did immediately reveal my prediction, and I was like, "Okay, cool." So this is an interesting way to take the plot forward that I enjoy. And then it ends with the Thunderhead being like, "I can't help you. It's literally impossible for me to help you. Despite me being like a cognizant AI, I am still a program and cannot break my programming." And I was like, "Okay, fine."
And she was like, "Well, can't you just try?" And he's like, beep, 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 beep. "Okay, well, I can tell you its name."
Yeah.
I was like, "What?"
Yeah, and he doesn't even, because he can't interfere with the Scythe stuff, but he runs enough algorithms that finds out.
He's like, "Oh, I did find
there's
another
100% probability that you will find out that this name matters to you.
Yeah.
So here's the name. Which is sort of like self-fulfilling prophecy in a way.
Yeah.
Because okay, well, yes, now there is a 100% chance that she finds out that name matters because you just told her that name matters.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's kind of like stupid, but at the same time, I get what he was going for there. Mm-hmm. Or, I get what the author was going for.
Right, yeah, that's what I was thinking you meant.
It was an interesting interaction, and it would have made her exile so much more interesting, because then it would have shown, because the Thunderhead outright says what I was thinking, I watch everything and I'm concerned with what's happening with the Scythe Dome, and I think that you are the best chance, or at least in all the algorithms that I've run, the vast majority of them have you as a pivotal role. So I need you to be aware that you're a pivotal role, and I've needed to save you for this moment to be able to tell you that. Yeah. It's like, okay, sweet. So she's going to be in exile, and she's going to, handle things from the outside while Rowan handles things from the inside that we were talking about. This is a very interesting way to do that. And then immediately the exile doesn't matter. Yeah. And so I was like, so all of that, it was just, there's so much stuff that, we've already talked about it. But even now, looking at it from the perspective of, the Thundercloud or the Thunderhead being involved, just also doesn't matter. Yeah. It's just really weird. Yeah. And I guess like we were just talking about prior to getting back onto that, the discussion, the book is not asking you to think for a lot. It's a very simple plot, and it's a very, very obvious young adult novel series, which is fine, and it's hopefully going to sell well. I enjoyed it. I hope that I'm going to enjoy the next two.
Yeah, no, I wasn't really mad about it not making me think too much, but
I'm not mad about it.
I do like the other ones engaging us more. I think I think it came at the right time for us, because we were.
And now seeing that that's how it turned out, it, I guess, justifies the way that I felt the whole last two sections. Yeah, because every time I was like, I'm just engaged. Like, I don't think I care, but I'm engaged, so sure.
I care? Yeah. So do I care?
I don't know what that means.
What
and now seeing how it ends and seeing it for what it is as a whole picture, I'll be like, okay, that makes sense. That's why I was just engaged, because it was never asking me to do anything else.
As you were saying that, I was like, no, that makes perfect sense why he said he was just engaged, but not like... but not like...
Wasn't like totally bought in, because there was nothing to really, sink into. Mm-hmm. It was a relatively shallow
I was wondering if, because of that, like... it made you not think as hard, so maybe the ending came a little bit more shocking, or if it was, because I honestly, I don't think it was like, oh my god, but like I think it was surprising for sure. Like, so I was wondering, like, I wonder if just because he was engaged, it made him a little bit more surprised, or if it was just the writing, because I feel like I was the same way. Like, I was engaged the whole time, I was enjoying it, but it didn't make me work too hard, and then it was just kind of giving you all the info you needed right when you needed it, and then the ending happened, and I was like, okay, I guess I could see that coming, but I didn't, and it happened, and like I was saying earlier, like I thought I saw it coming, but I never would have said it as a prediction, and then I did. And I was like, oh, cool.
Yeah, I don't know that I could buy into the idea that was a decided writing technique.
Oh, right, yeah.
I don't think that it. Mm-hmm. Maybe it is, but I have a hard time believing that.
Oh yeah, I don't know.
I think that it's just, a really simple narrative. And with, and not to say without effort, but certainly not as much effort. I still feel wrong saying that. I don't know
Simple isn't
the
bad.
right word. No, simple's not bad. I don't mean to
Simple
say that
isn't
at
bad
all.
at all.
But
No.
there could you can see where more can be done.
Yeah, that makes sense. I like that.
I can make a very simple table,
It was
and it will hold things,
for Game of Thrones.
and I can eat dinner on a very simple table, or I can put carvings into it and make it a real work.
Yeah, masterpiece.
Yeah, and I think that this is more along the lines of something that you would buy at IKEA.
Yeah. Okay. Still good. Still works.
Yeah, does its job.
Yeah.
You can use it. It can do its job very well, and that's it.
Yeah, I think this book, if you were like trying to get out of maybe like a book funk, like if you had just left a bunch of characters you loved and you wanted some new ones, I think this would get you back in because it engages,
right?
But it doesn't make you fall head over heels, so that like when you lose them and you're done, it's like, well, now what do I do with my life? Like when Harry Potter was done, it was like, well, now what do I do with my life? Like these guys, I like them all, and I want to know what happens in the other books, but I'm not going to go home immediately and then tear through.
It's almost like Pulp Fiction, not the movie, but the namesake of that movie.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
It's like, old Pulp Fiction novels where it's just, a little see-through in ways, kind of, hollow or even a little, shallow in a lot of ways. And it's just
full of pulp.
Yeah. Which is fine. Yeah. Those were also relatively successful back then. And that's why they ended up getting their own sort of like pseudo-genre. Yeah. But it just, I'm way more excited to continue reading The Gentleman Bastards than I am continue reading Arc of the Scythe. Yeah,
I can agree with that. I'd like to get back in with those guys. And I don't know if you said it during the show or before the show, but you said it's going to be a 7-part book series?
It's a 7-part series.
That's pretty epic.
Not counting the prequel that has been written.
So that's like his masterpiece. That's his Lord of the Rings. That's his Dark Tower. That's his
I suppose
Harry Potter.
So. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's his Game of
Thrones. It's definitely going to be, or it looks like it's going to be his most involved work.
There's a guy that wrote it, right? I can't remember now.
Yeah, it was, what was his name? I can't remember his name right now, but yes, it was a male author. It's definitely his predominant work, I would assume. Yeah. Unless, I think he was like 40 or something like that. I don't remember, unfortunately, that now being 2.5 books ago.
But yeah, that's his like epic tale that he's like his main masterpiece.
Assuming that he finishes relatively quickly, he could literally have the time to do something bigger.
Yeah,
but but it being a 7-novel series, 8 if you count the prequel, the Zero novel.
Well, and he's been signed on for all 7, so he's booked for work for the next 5-10 years.
He's done what it was we were talking about earlier. Was he has nailed down the longevity play. Being able to say, obviously he probably presented a series, and maybe he was going to write it anyways. I'm sure that a lot of authors that are very passionate about the craft or whatever would write all of their stories anyways. They just wouldn't never get published necessarily. Right. Whereas he was able to successfully nail down that long-term publishing deal.
There is one author that ironically would never have written if he wasn't like kind of forced into it. And
Dr. Seuss.
And I've really enjoyed that. Could be true. But I don't know his history.
His friends dared him into writing a children's novel.
That's so funny.
Or a children's book, because none of them are novels.
Yeah.
And he was like, okay, fuck it, I'll do it.
Patrick Rothfuss, the guy that does the Name of the Wind series that I keep recommending, he wanted to be a video game writer. A video game writer. He wanted to write for video games. So he tried to write video games for a while. I don't think any of them ever got picked up, or maybe they write, or maybe I don't even really know how that process works. I don't know. It's kind of like songwriting. I don't know if you have the lyrics first or the song first. I don't know if you have the story. And then
so far as I understand it, the video game industry right now is pretty incestuous, and it's only made of people who have been there since video games started.
Okay. So
and every now and then, some studio will want to work with a known author for something. And try to do something
now, because because then he was just like, well, fine, like I guess if I can't write for this book, if I can't write for the video game, I'll write the book. Then he's now written The Name of the Wind and the second one that I can't remember right now, and now he's taken some time off writing that series so that he can do his true passion actually, which is writing video games. Which is silly, but he did what we were talking. He found longevity in his career through some success, which is, that book, which is cool.
Right. Yeah.
You looking it up or?
No, I was looking up specifically to when I then said sometimes studios, then consult a big author or something like that for the purpose, blah, blah, blah. And that doesn't happen a whole lot. But one time that it was really, or at least, most infamously done was when Kingdoms of Amalur Reckoning came out, and they consulted R.A. Salvatore for that. They wanted him to build the world for that, and that was supposed to be like this really big, grand franchise, and it was a total flop. Even though it's a great game, nobody bought that shit.
I was going to say,
and so they spent all this money having Salvatore spend all this time crafting this universe that we were presumably going to, explore across several different games.
Yeah.
Never fucking happened.
Oh, man, what a drag.
And so that was like, that I know of, is kind of like harkened back to is like, remember last time we tried that?
Yeah.
Spent a lot of money and we got nothing out of it. So let's just keep the writers that we already have.
Stick to what we know.
It's good that the guy that you were mentioning, is able to now do that. Because in the past it's been proven to not be worth the money.
And I don't think that he's like a main, like I don't think he's like the one creating the world by himself. I think he's there helping write and program.
Right, he's just like on the writing team.
Exactly. I think he's part of the squad. Like, I'm sure they're not. At least I hope they're not making the same mistakes. But we'll find out.
No.
Anyway, you want to let everybody know what book we're going to do next?
Yes. So, starting next week, we're going to... That'll be June. Starting for June. That'll be when not this episode, but the episode that we start reading this book starts. Bring Me Back, a novel, which kind of annoys me whenever that happens. Like, okay, yes, it's a novel. I can see that. I can literally physically see that this is a novel. But anyway, Bring Me Back is the title by B.A. Paris. It's sort of like a thriller. I guess I'll read the sort of not synopsis, but that little hook page that books get. Finn and Layla are young, in love, and on vacation. They're driving along the highway when Finn decides to stop at a service station to use the restroom. He hops out of the car, locks the doors behind him, and goes inside. When he returns, Layla is gone, never to be seen again. That is the story Finn told the police, but it is not the whole story. 10 years later, Finn is engaged to Layla's sister, Ellen. Their shared grief over what happened to Layla drew them close, and now they intend to remain together. Still, there's something about Ellen that Finn has never fully understood. His heart wants to believe that she is the one for him, even though a sixth sense tells him not to trust her. Then, not long before he and Ellen are to be married, Finn gets a phone call. Someone from his past has seen Layla hiding in plain sight. There are other odd occurrences, long-lost items from Layla's past that keep turning up around Finn and Ellen's house, emails from strangers who seem to know too much, secret messages, clues, warnings. If Layla is still alive and on Finn's trail, what does she want, and how much does she know? So this is just like a sort of like mystery-esque thriller novel.
Yeah.
That I think is kind of a departure from the last several books that we've read.
And I think it's a one-off too, you were saying, right?
Yes. Yeah, it's just a single novel.
Yeah, this will
we
be
don't
good.
have to start investing in another series.
Yeah, commit to another one.
Which, not that there's anything wrong with that, but if I build up too many series that I want to read, I'll never get through anything.
Yeah, I'll get anxiety. I don't want to go through all of them.
So, that's what we'll be doing. Bring Me Back, a novel by B.A. Paris.
How much do you want to read? Or should we just figure out that?
Yeah, let's figure that out real quick. So for our first section of reading, we're just going to read the first section.
Yeah.
It's broken up into 3 parts, parts 1, 2, and 3. We're going to read all of part 1. It's 22 chapters worth, which sounds like a lot, but some of the chapters are only 3 pages. So it's not as long as you might think.
Yeah, it's only about 110 pages or so. Not much. So
whenever you get through part 1, we're done. We'll see you next week with part 1. What we will also be doing is, and now this is a week in between, so we'll have a week of 1 episode, but we decided that we're going to continue with the 2 episodes things.
Right.
With Good Omens, the Amazon Prime original series, based off of the 1996 novel, co-authored by Terry Pratchett and Neil Gaiman.
Yeah.
So
getting some new blood and old blood.
Right, yeah. Neil Gaiman, who obviously we our first book was his first published work, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, Neverwhere being his first. Yeah, I mean, it was
his first published novel.
Yeah, and it was yeah.
So, getting back to Neil, and getting in with Terry Pratchett, who is obviously a very accomplished and well-known author, having written the Discworld anthology.
Mm-hmm.
This show, I hope, is going to be really good. It seems to be one of the not first, at least so far as I've been paying attention, it's going to be one of the first in Amazon Prime's newer attempts at making really high budget prestige series. They've had their own original shows for a little while now, but I feel like this is the first one that's going to be big.
Right.
And it's got a big IP.
Yeah.
Next up is Lord of the Rings. We'll see how that goes. But it's got people in it that are awesome. Martin Sheen is great. David Tennant is phenomenal. It's got, what's his name?
Benedict Cumberbatch?
Yeah, Cumberbatch. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very intense name.
Yeah, you can't get away from something BBC without throwing him in there.
Right. So, I'm excited for it, I think.
I think it'll be good. And it'll be fun to keep doing the 2 episodes a week.
Mm-hmm.
If you like what you're hearing, give us 5 stars, please. And subscribe. Yeah, review, subscribe, send us requests. Just let us know you're there.
Yeah. We'll be seeing y'all next week with the first section of Bring Me Back. And then after that, we'll be starting Good Omens. Good Omens starts on May 31st. It's a Friday. So I think it's going to be airing on Fridays, unless they do something really strange, like change the day that they air after the premiere.
Yeah.
So those episodes will come out on Monday, just like the Game of Thrones episodes did.
Yeah.
I'm going to keep the same working rhythm that we've had.
We'll just have a couple days to think about it.
The book club episodes will come out on Wednesdays, as they always have. So look for all that. I'm Will Hedrick.
I'm Jordan Schaffer.
This is Dog Ears and Timestamps. Go Bruins.
It's more expensive on Kindle than it is on...
It's $13.99 on the Amazon website.
Yeah, and the hardcover is $11.41.
Interesting.
And the paperback is $10.39.
Interesting.
So for digital content, which costs them nothing,
it evidently cost a lot more work than we think, because there was constantly weird typos and things in Scythe that I was kind of like, man, this did not get vetted. Like, there are a lot of things that slipped the crack. And even, in traditional publishing structure, sometimes there are typos in books that get physically published, and that's why you get second and third editions and stuff like that. But man, there was a lot inside. And it's on a computer. Like, you can run spell check.
Yeah, it shouldn't be that hard.
Weird. It kind of trips me out whenever I see that. It, like, as successful as ebooks are, they don't seem to get the attention that they deserve from an editing standpoint.
Mm-hmm.
Like Descendant of the Crane not having page numbers. It's like, why?